Oh, we're gonna use this. This is it.
You gotta restart it though. You're gonna say
no,
it again. I cut it.
Why?
I started in the middle.
Why did you stop it? Start it right now. Record now. Go.
We're recording.
Okay.
Hey guys, welcome back to Cups of Crazy. I'm Rachel.
I'm Lee.
Happy freaking Monday.
Yes, another one.
How was your weekend?
It was all right. I wasn't super productive, but Saturday I had my mommy day outing, kid-free afternoon stuff, so that was nice. Got my nails did, and grabbed a Starbucks, picked up my Target order. I love that freaking Target pickup, like especially on the weekend.
I love Target.
Bruh.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did that, and then I had takeout Saturday night, had a few beers. So yeah, it was pretty all right, very low key, nothing too wild, which is how I prefer it.
Yep. Okay, so today we're gonna be talking about self-love, like we've already covered self-care and self-exploration. So we're gonna do self-love, and I found this quote, and and it says, "How you love yourself is how you teach others to love you," which makes me question my whole life. So, thoughts? I feel like it's true.
No, and it totally is.
Sense.
And when you read that earlier, it was just kind of like, oh, that's the problem. And it's
right.
You know, this has always been a struggle for me ever since I was little, like really little. So it is tricky. This is something that I know at this age I have to either work on, or it's just going to be how I am, which I'd prefer not, but I don't really understand the steps to how people get to that point.
Right.
So
and that's why we're here, because we're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
Together. So the first thing that I wanted to go, or just kind of like me and Lee would kind of answer on our own, is what there's not like a specific definition, like, well, I mean, there is, but just kidding. So what are your thoughts on self-love? Like, how would you define self-love?
For me, I feel like it's just truly coming to a point where you accept yourself, you know your worth, and you live your life by that own like personal code. And it's just knowing what you deserve, because you know what your worth is, basically. That's kind of how I look at it anyway, is just being okay with who you are, knowing what you can change, knowing what you can't change, and being okay with that.
Yeah, that was a great answer. That was good. I like that. All right, I'm gonna put what I wrote down, like, again, months ago. I'm using this book to help us along with this. And then I haven't read it yet, so I'm gonna read it, and then I'll see if I feel like it's changed. I put, self-love to me means making decisions that benefit my life. It means to not be self-destructive, to accept myself while actively trying to become the best version of myself. So always listen to myself and not saying yes to people when really I want to say no. Self means respecting myself. I agree.
Totally.
That's pretty good. Yep. Yeah, so I feel like, oh, you can't see my cat crawling across my keyboard.
I can see him.
Oh, okay. So there's a thing, and basically what it tells you is in the order of how to get to what you were just saying, like to achieve what you want to achieve.
Yeah.
Like how to get to that place where you're so comfortable with yourself. I thought it was freezing, sorry. So it goes from bottom to top. It goes physiological, safety, love, belonging, esteem, and self-actualization. So those are the hierarchy of needs that you need to do to fulfill, to become. Anyway, to get to the point, to what Lee was saying, was like, she doesn't know how to get to that point, which most of us don't know how to get to that point. You know what I mean? It's hard because it's a lot of exploration, and really coming to terms with not who you are, because who you are is different than what you do or how you behave. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you have to accept the things that you've done in life, like bad things or wrong things, or you know, like you have to accept yourself through and through. Like, yes, I did do this. Like, we'll use my friend as an example. Obviously, no names. Like, you know, she's a hardcore drug addict, this and that. Like, that doesn't define her as part of her story. You know what I mean?
Right.
So she had to come to terms with what was bothering her, why she felt like she needed to do drugs to start elevating into being able to love yourself.
Right.
So that's, you know, that's how that works. I will put on our website like the definitions for all the needs that you need to meet and what they mean and how you can't go from one step without completing the next type of thing. And then there's a section here which I found pretty cool of what self-love is and what self-love isn't. And some of the things that, you know, if you don't have a strong sense of love for yourself, you can experience anxiety, carelessness, criminal behavior, defensiveness, depression, hopelessness, insecurity, negligence, prejudice, sadness, shame, stagnancy, suicidal thoughts, and unhealthy coping mechanisms. So when you don't love yourself all the way, that's a lot to, you know, I could probably check off like 75% of those boxes. So,
Yeah, I was going to say that. That's
mm,
more than half for me.
right. So, you know, but on the other hand, with a strong sense of love for yourself, you benefit from gains in academic achievement, altruism, belonging, career success, confidence, empowerment, encouragement, enthusiasm, happiness, inspiration, love, motivation, passion, relationship quality, self-care, self-support, physical health, and parenting skills.
Interesting.
Yes. So we need to start loving ourselves through and through.
Damn.
I know, what a bitch. I wanted to go over or ask you what you think self-love is not. I'll give you one example out of like the few that they give, just so you know, like, you know, entitlement is one of them. Like,
so
it's
like
not
being too cocky about yourself, basically.
right. That is not self-love. Entitlement is not self-love. That's egotistical.
Yeah. I don't really know, honestly.
And that's okay, because we don't even know how to love ourselves. So how can we know what not to? What's
Right.
not? So, but we're learning. All right. So what self-love is entitlement, selfishness, you know, and that's a fine line because, you know, a lot of, you know, because we talk about you have to do what makes you feel good. There's a difference between being selfish and being self-confident and, you know, doing things that you are not doing things that you know are going to make you feel worse. You know, there's a difference.
Yeah.
Learn it. Sinful. Yeah, we don't touch on that, or do we?
What is it?
Sinful.
I
picked up a Bible yesterday. I thought my hand was gonna set on fire.
Yeah, so it's probably not one that works for us.
No.
We know what we've done. We just,
right.
you know, we call it poor decisions, lapse in decision, whatever you want to call it.
Right. And then it says an excuse. So, like, you know, you can't just give up some lame excuse just to say that you're trying to work on self-love or, you know, things like that. Like, don't use it as an excuse to be an asshole, basically.
Right. And you're bullshitting yourself at that point, too. So.
Right. And then this one was, this is really actually good. What do you, so I'm going to ask you a question, but first there's a quote that goes with it, and it says, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you've built against it. That one hit me pretty rough. I had to read it a couple times.
Self-sabotage.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, and it's hard to break down barriers. So what do you think obstacles in self-love are? And this any question I ask, please, for everybody. We want responses. We want to know.
So, wait, can you say it again? I had a good answer and I forgot. I've only had a cup of coffee, so.
I haven't even had a Red Bull yet. Maybe that's why I'm like this. Obstacles in self-love. What are obstacles in self-love?
I think if you don't understand your worth, you allow people to treat you a certain way, which, you know, isn't helping yourself because it could mean you're in a shitty relationship or you have friends that take advantage of you. And if you don't respect yourself enough and take care of yourself mentally to understand what's going on,
Yeah.
then that's a huge obstacle, because you just let people walk all over you and use you, and you're like, well, this is okay.
Boundaries.
Exactly.
I'm starting to learn like to wait for your pause now.
Thank
Right?
you.
It's getting better. I know. I'm sorry. Guys, I'm sorry. I have this thing where like my brain, because I have ADHD, my brain goes so fast that I have, you know, there's so much going on that shit just starts coming out of my mouth to release it from my brain. And sometimes I cut her off because I forget that there's a pause. So she doesn't answer like right after I'm done talking. I just keep going, and I'm trying to get better at that. So it's not like I'm, trying to be like the talker of the show. It's equal. It's just sometimes, she's known me since I was born. She knows just how I am. Like,
Yeah.
but I'm working on it. It's part of bettering yourself.
Totally.
All right, so for this, it says obstacles in self-love are comparisons, mental illness, danger, things that would put you in danger, and abuse. And if you don't mind, I kind of want to read this paragraph.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Physical, sexual, and psychological abuse all provoke consequences that may risk severe impairment. Individuals who endure abuse often have feelings of shame and guilt that inhibit their ability to seek help and heal. Even past memories of abuse can be pervasive and may be triggered, thus distracting from impeding one's progress in the present. Abuse often happens at the hands of someone that you love or loves you. They didn't put quotes. I did. This person could be a partner or family member. The betrayal can foster a lack of trust in oneself and others, causing one to question their worth and encounter issues with self-esteem, confidence, and self-respect. All forms of abuse may yield psychological consequences. Psychological abuse includes pain without overt physical harm, which may cause the severity of psychological concerns to be further ignored, minimized, or difficult to recognize. Sticks and stones and words be painful, name calling, yelling, insulting, threatening, excluding, mocking, humiliating, criticizing, all that potentially be deepful, painfully, and powerful offenses that often prohibit a person's ability to love themselves.
So that is incredibly true, but that is also something, I had posted something about it the other day, is, people don't realize how hard it is to actually trust yourself when you've constantly been manipulated to think that your feelings are invalid, or when you realize something isn't added up and you question it, and it's like, oh, you're just being crazy. Like, trusting yourself after years of going through that is a barrier in itself, because if I always have to question what I'm feeling, then I'm not being true to who I am. It doesn't matter what the other person feels. Right. It's what I feel. And if it's not being heard, then there's a problem there,
right.
But then when you back down all the time, it's like you're not respecting yourself enough to stand up for yourself.
Right. And then, as far as like trusting yourself, you're like, well, I trusted myself. I thought that was a bottle of wine.
No.
As far as like trusting yourself, you're like, well, I trusted myself to make these great decisions before.
Right.
And, look how the fuck that turned out every time. So then it's like, do I trust it? Like, I'm real big on like love and emotions, and I let that take over me a lot. But like my one, the last encounter thing that I had that I told you about, the sunglass man.
Yeah.
I cut that off so fast. One time, lied. I dated someone for like maybe 3 weeks. He lied one time. I caught him and I was done, because I know my worth and it's not lying. I don't care what it's about. If you lie about something small, you're gonna lie about something big.
Amen.
And for real. So, I wanted to read. She knows why, but so everybody else knows why. I wanted to read that paragraph because it's very significant to me in the last 2 relationships, long term, that I've been in. And one was very physical, and then the other one was more very psychological. So like, I've dealt with a lot of abuse. So when it comes to that, healing is a long time. Learning how to love yourself takes a long time.
Yeah.
I have been a year and a half out since I ended a relationship that, you know, my mom swore I'd be on the news because I was dead for. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But the day I ended that is when the process started. But it's been a long year and almost
Yeah.
2. You know what I mean? Like, it takes a while. Healing is not easy. It's not fun. It's not as like zen as they make it sound or as
No, it's
people post
painful.
memes about. It
Yeah,
is painful.
you have to figure out all those things, and you start to see the things you maybe should have saw then. You see them now, and it's like, well, what the hell? Why did I stick around? Why didn't I stick up for myself? Or, you know, you sometimes fall in love with that person you initially meet, the representative. I've gone through that, and you know, it was at first heartbreaking when it ended, but then it was like, well, that's not even the person I knew like 5 years
Right.
ago. You know what I mean? It was like, that's not the person, but sometimes you hold on to that memory,
Yeah.
which leaves you in a situation for longer than, you know, you realize later on than you should have been.
Years later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like, with what I just told you prior to us getting on here.
Yeah.
Last night or yesterday when I found that out, you know, I was like laying in bed, AJ was sleeping, and I was like reading, you know, some stuff for what we're gonna do today, and I just couldn't stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then it's, you know, when you've been in unhealthy relationships, you know, if you've been in any relationship where you've been abused, no matter the severity, I hate when people minimize, because that's what I got, not in trouble, but yelled at a lot for. Like my mom or my, you know, therapist would be like, stop minimizing what happened just because someone else, because I'd be like, there's kids in Africa starving and like getting chopped up by machetes, and I'm over here bitching because, you know, whatever. And
Yeah.
she's like, but you're minimizing. It doesn't matter. That's what happened to you. Like, you can't
Yeah.
minimize.
I say that all the time. Like, yes, other people have it worse, but right now you're living through this. This is
Right.
your pain. It doesn't
Right.
matter if, well, I mean, it does matter, but you know what I mean? Like,
Right. Like, you can care about what's going on, but just because something more grave is happening, you know, somewhere else in the world, your next door neighbor, whatever, you know, what you're going through is important. You
Yeah.
only have to be hit once to be abused. That's it. You're in an abusive relationship.
right.
Even if you weren't dead, you know, that's it. Because there must have been things that built up to that. No one just turns around and starts slapping people.
Right.
Well, depends on who you are, I guess. So yeah, so just for everybody that, you know, is out there and trying to find self-love, like, that's the first chapter in this book. Like, we've been flip-flopping for like our series of, you know, self-improvements and stuff, but that's the first chapter of this book, and it's the first because it's the most important, because you can't do anything if you do not love yourself. And like, you can't do anything, meaning, like, especially if you suffer from mental health issues, if you can't find a way to love yourself outside of what goes on up here,
Yeah.
you're always going to be stuck in here, because
Right.
whatever issues you have, mental, that's not who you are. It's just a part of you.
But I think the flip side to that though is having certain mental illnesses.
Because
It's
it makes
part
it
of,
hard.
right, it's part of what blocks that, because there's so much going on every day. You know, if you're in a manic phase and everything's like, yay, I love everything, I love myself, well, the next day you could be completely down, coming off that high, and it's like, well, I don't know what I was thinking yesterday. I'm still worthless. I still allow people to walk all over me. I'm not a good mom. I'm not a good friend. I'm not a good girlfriend. Like, that's the hardest part, I think, with having BPD and bipolar. It's like, that's not something that, even if I work so hard at it, I'm still going to have those days where I struggle. So it's figuring out a way when I am having those days to just remind myself, this is just a moment, an hour, a day. This isn't everything all the time. It's just how I'm feeling right now, or, you know, these past few days, this is how I felt.
Right.
So it's 10 times more of a struggle when you do have a mental illness.
And it is, and that's what I think we deleted that episode that I talked about that with, because we deleted a couple. But for instance, like this is called the 5 Second Rule by Mel Robbins. I highly recommend it more for people who don't have mental illness, because no, serious, because of what you just said. I mean, if you're really working on your mental health, like, and trying to be self-love, then yes, get this book. But if you're just like, oh, this is going to change my life, this book won't work for you, because I remember watching a TED Talk, and I forget what this girl had, but she was like, so many people with mental health issues or PTSD or bipolar or anything like that, they get these books thinking that they'll help because they're personal development books, but there's no integration of mental health within these books. With a lot of these books, there's no mental health integration.
Right.
And some of it may be, like this book is called the 5 Second Rule. It's basically and I've actually followed the 5 Second Rule a few times. The main one is like the alarm clock. Like if snooze is the first thing you do in the morning, how's the rest of your day gonna go? If the first thing you do is hit snooze, how's your day gonna go?
Right.
So you have 5 seconds to get. It's called the activation force. You only have 5 seconds for activation force to work, to get up and out, brush your teeth, and start your day as soon as the alarm goes off. If you're at a wedding and you see someone you want to dance with and you want to do it, you have 5 seconds to make that move before your brain shuts you down and says, never mind, you're not worthy, blah, blah.
Right.
So, it's true. It's harder with mental health to work on self-love, but it's something that you have to do forever. It's going to be a
constant battle
every day. And on the days that, like I'm having a horrific day today, if you can't tell. Like, just I don't feel with it, and I didn't want to record. I when you said it worked, I almost told you, like, can we not do it today because whatever. And and Lee said the same thing before too. But like we said before, I feel like it's important to come on no matter what mood we're in, because people need to see that we're not just like hilarious and in a good mood all the time. Like, we're not. Like, I found out I've had a really weird week of really good news and really bad news, but I let the bad news take over because it directly affected how I felt about myself. You know what I mean? Like, why wasn't I worthy? Am I not as special as I think I am? Like, and not being like conceited, but everybody's special in their own way. So it's like, am I not as special as I thought I was? That they could just do this, that, or the third, or whatever. Right. And
but that shows true to their character. That's one thing we have to remind ourselves.
And that's why it was like, and this is how fucked up it is. I couldn't wait to tell you this. I'm glad I remembered. I was laying there and like I could feel my eyes pulsating, like wanting to cry, like literally, like, but I mean, like, as if I didn't cry on and off all day yesterday anyway. But I was really upset about it. But I'm like, but no more tears could come. I'm like, I must be out. I must be dry, fucking sucked dry, right? But then I'm like, no, it's because you are used to chaos and this and that and being hectic. And when bad news happens, you just go like, nah. But you don't have to do that anymore because you're learning.
Right.
So your body's reaction is to cry, but I couldn't do it because my mental was like, no, you're better than this, you're stronger than this, don't do it. It's just a used to thing. So I will definitely have a couple of PDFs for this one because this is a fun one for PDFs. And yeah, and then we're working on something special for you guys for self-care that we'll announce probably the next one.
Yeah.
And that's going to be really, really cool. Really excited about it. And yeah, so that's all I have.
So I did kind of want to just mention again, the people that have reached out to us and that we've talked to on the app that we're on. We appreciate you. Everyone's kind of going through their struggles, not just because we're in a fucking pandemic and our president's an idiot, but there are so many other things going on right now in personal lives and things like that. So even you, Rachel, you know, you've had a rough couple of weeks, but you have to remind yourself you're here for a reason. There's a path that you're going down that, you know, there's a lot of things that are going to happen, some good, some bad. But at the end of the day, we have to find, even if, you know, like we talked about self-care and self-love, even if it's something that we struggle with, that I struggle with every day, I always try to find something good within the day that happened.
Yeah.
So when I go to bed at night, it's like, well, at least this happened today. And even if it's just, you know, I made a really good dinner, I'm like, well, that was good. Good job. You know?
Right.
So it's just finding those little tidbits, which isn't always easy. And sometimes, you know, I'll lay in bed and I'm like, I don't even care about the one good thing that happened today. But it is something that
thing.
I try very hard. Otherwise, I wake up the next day in that same shitty state. So.
That's what I woke up like this morning. It's like when you open your eyes, or even before, you can already feel how your day's going. You know what I mean? But sorry, it's a little unprofessional, but I have to grab this book to show Elise something for what she just talked about. Hold on.
Oh, Rachel.
I see you laughing at me, bitch. Sometimes when I'm watching us, I'm more watching you, or watching, like, reacting to me, and it's hilarious. So, the 30-day challenge, let's see, we are on day 14. That's 2 weeks. Today would be 14 days. Yeah, and I've been doing it. I've missed 1 or 2 days, but I go back in and write for what I did do for the challenge for those days, even if I couldn't journal.
Yeah.
But it's been a hectic couple of days. But like, okay, so just for an example for what she was talking about, like, you have to find something good at the end of the day. Like, I pretty much cried myself to sleep almost last night. But before I did, you know, I did what's part of our challenge. So the first thing is, what's your mental state? It's not freaking good. That's what that's what you have to be honest about. But I put, I'm grateful for, and this is how simple it can be. I got offered a couple of business opportunities, so I did put that, which isn't simple, but the rain right now, like, it was raining, and like just the sound of the rain, I was grateful for that. And I put my fluffy socks, because I was wearing fluffy socks and I was comfortable. Because sometimes you have to be like, being grateful is like, oh, grateful for my job, car. That's what people think, but it doesn't have to be that big. It can be the smallest thing. Like, you know, one day I put that I was happy that I had legs to run.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
And then I put, and then I still, so even though my mental state was the first thing I wrote, you can't see it, but it says not good, I still wrote things I'm grateful for, and I still wrote positive affirmations. And when you do that, it does make you feel better. So I put, I'm becoming who I'm meant to be. I am so brave. I can make it through anything. Because if you don't remind yourself of these things, you're just never going to make it.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're just going to sit in your brain and allow the things to define you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You have to keep pushing forward, and it's a daily struggle. So, you know, today I'm in one of those, even though I'm not really, but I can
tell when
you know,
I can tell the minute you come on, I can tell how you are.
Yeah, it's like there are things weighing on my mind right now, but at the same time, I'm like, it's okay. Like, but then tomorrow it could be the same amount of things, but I'm totally like, this shit sucks.
Right.
So, you know, every day you just got to do your best and try and remind yourself that you're worth it. You're doing the best you can, and that's all we can do. It's not like we were handed a perfect life. You know what I mean? We weren't handed perfect brains, perfect genes, none of it. So we have to be strong enough to push through and, you know, do the best that we can and make ourselves happy before making everyone else happy. Because you can't help everyone else if you yourself are deteriorating.
Can't fill from an empty cup.
Yeah, I was trying to think of that as I talked, but I would have just thrown in like milk or something weird and be like,
you
what?
You gotta put milk in your cup to finish it. But, and you know what is good, and what, like Lee's teaching me is that like, because the way I can always tell like what kind of mood that you're in, you know, more or less basically on like your face or
Yeah.
the way you say things.
Everyone can tell from my face.
Right.
I've been talked to multiple times at work about it.
Well, you have a resting bitch face, but that's not your fault.
I've heard that too, and I didn't
Yeah,
realize
you do.
that.
Yeah, you could be intimidating. If I see you on the street, I know when people don't know that you love cats and just like, you know, want your coffee and kittens.
Yeah. Right?
But Lee has like taught me unknowingly to not cover up when I'm feeling, you know, meh. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's important. Don't
It is.
like, yeah, you can fake it until you make it. Like, and that's what that 5-second rule book says. But you know, again, like we've talked about, you want to be able to understand what you're feeling. I allowed myself to cry. And I was like,
Right.
you're freaking retarded. I'm like, well, fuck you. You don't know what you're talking about. Like, sorry, mom, I love you. But I didn't say it like that. But it's like, you know, you're entitled, even if nobody understands, you're entitled to feel the way that you feel. No one can tell you how to feel. So if because of the news I got yesterday made me want to cry on and off all day, I did, and now I'm over it. Am I still mad? Yeah.
Yeah.
And never feel like anybody listening, never feel like you have nobody to talk to. Because even if you don't, there's us. And we have a WhatsApp line that you can directly get to us. And I run that line. It's because you can only use the one phone number, so it'll be me. But if you prefer to talk to Lee, you can always write me and say, this is who I prefer to talk to, or just anybody, but we're here. So I'm going to put that up on the Mighty app, on our website. No, it's on our website already.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to make another post on Facebook and Instagram so people know that they always have someone to reach out to, whether it's, you know, email, talking on the phone, video chat, FaceTime. And also, if anybody has any great stories or videos that they want to send in for the next episode, which will be self-respect, we'll just say that.
Yeah. Let's go with it.
Yeah, so we'll do self-respect. So if you have a story, you can send us, you know, a video or a story, and we'll put it on there, you know, depending on the content. Yeah. But you know, if it's relative, you know, we'll definitely put you up here. I still want to get Jules on. We gotta have her zoom in one day.
Right. That'd be awesome.
She still writes me. She's just cool. Hey, Jules from Australia. So yeah, that's all I got.
All right, cool. Well, it's been good talking to everyone. As
It is.
always, thank you for listening. Appreciate all the love from, you know, all the
We've been
people.
getting so many. Our website's been getting so many views. I'm like,
Yes, it's amazing. And
people wrote me about the PDF, so you know, I'm like, yeah.
no, it's
So-
amazing to know, like, you know, at the end of the day, even if just one person listened, maybe it helped. You know what I mean? And that's really what we're trying to do with this. It's just, you know, two people that have no idea what they're doing in life or in
at all.
creating a podcast.
Right. Do you see our heights right now? Like, this is well, if you're listening, you wouldn't, but we have a lot of people who watch the YouTube video. I don't recommend, if you're listening, don't watch this one. I look like shit.
Man.
There was just one more thing I wanted to say. And it ties into self-love. So yesterday I was thinking about how September is almost over, and September is Suicide Prevention Month, and I had a video. I have deleted over 80 something videos that I made for this one suicide prevention video that I've been trying to do. I deleted 80 because it was the same thing over and over and over, and I felt like I had to like read it off so it sounded rehearsed. And then last night I came up with this idea because, you know, I asked your opinion, my mom's opinion, my friend's opinion on like ways I should go about it, you know, just for ideas and stuff like that. But I don't know what happened, if it was like my sleeping medicine, me being upset or whatever. But after I wrote that positive affirmations thing, I came up like with the idea of like, well, one, you have to get it done before the end of September.
Yeah.
Two, you don't have to, you know, you don't have to make it so statistical. Like I was so worried about, you know, I've researched like Harvard studies, and like I don't know if anybody's ever read a scholarly article but they're not freaking easy to read. They're hard. There's these weird numbers and symbols in them and but I did so much research for this video, and then I'm like, no, this isn't, I can just put the links for these things that you guys can
Right.
read yourself. I'm sharing my story. So
Right.
I'm going to start. So when I do it, I'm going to do it. And I'll say the statistics for this if I'm involved, because this is my story.
Right.
And that's what I want it to be.
You gotta speak from the heart.
Right, exactly. Like, I'm not going to have cue cards or that whole fucking thing I did on PowerPoint. Like, no, it's just going to come. I know what the statistics are. I'll say what statistics, I mean, statistically speaking, it was bound to happen what happened to me. There was just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it just was. And I just came up with a new concept from the beginning. And that's self-love, listening to yourself and not what others say. So, I am trying to finish this video today and post it, because I feel like even though it's almost the end of September, suicide prevention needs to be year-round, not a month.
Absolutely.
There are so many people suffering. Like, 48,000 people die every year from suicides, and 1.4 million people try to commit suicide. 1.4 million in America. This
Right.
is America. Okay?
Unbelievable.
So, and some people do it not for crybaby attention. They do it for the attention of someone needs to notice that I'm not okay and I don't know how to help myself.
Right.
But then there's other people who do it with the intent of finishing it. Some
Right.
people do, some people don't. So with my case, my intent was to be done. And, I got saved, thank God now. But I'm going to talk about that in that video. And, it's like, why am I stopping myself from doing something that I know can help people that'll change just because I'm nervous if people might judge me or what they'll say?
Yeah.
No, that's not loving myself enough. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And I actually, my recent blog that I did on Brewed Greatness, I touched on that because, doing this, it's trying to find a balance of things that we are willing to put out there that have happened to us. And, I touched on how, back then there weren't certain things. Like, I'm a bit older than Rachel. But even when she was younger, there just weren't certain outlets when things happened to you. So like the Me Too movement, I didn't have that at 17. That wasn't a thing, and it wasn't something that was talked about enough. And in my family specifically, we didn't talk about anything like that. Anything major that happened, it was kind of like swept under the rug. And
you know that when, I'm sorry, people are not going to take this the wrong way, but if you knew this person, you would understand.
That's yeah.
When John died,
Mm-hmm.
I know my dad's not listening, so it's okay. When John died, who was our uncle, the brother of her sister and my father, he was the fucking worst, the absolute worst. And when I'll never forget, I was working, I came home, I walked in my mom's room, this is a couple years ago, and she was like, John died. And I was like, finally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People do really messed up stuff, and it just got swept under the rug because, ironically, our family doesn't like confrontation or talking about things. Right. Or talking about those things.
Right.
So
there was a whole thing that just swept under the rug. Yep.
Yeah. And so, at 17, when things happened, I didn't know who I could go to. So I didn't, you know what I mean? And the whole point of that was, we're doing this right now. And there could be someone out there that's 17 that has a, similar situation and some similar family type where, like, you don't talk about stuff. And so, there are things that will be uncomfortable for us to talk about, but it's figuring out, is that something that could help someone,
We know we can.
Yeah. And it's just kind of figuring out still ways to go about it because, I'm sure, well, I know that, a lot of things have happened to you and I that others don't know about. And it's, do we want to air that out on here, or do we want to, like, talk in a third person, like,
Exactly.
how do we get it out there? Because we know a lot about trauma. And we're still here, and it hasn't been easy staying, living, however you want to put it.
Offing yourself.
Right. Jesus Christ. So yeah, it's one of those things that I'm still trying to find the balance of. And I literally just wrote a blog about it the other day because it's something I'm struggling with. You know what I mean? I don't know about you, but it's,
Oh yeah.
you know, there are people out there that are sitting with shit and they just don't have anyone to turn to. And a lot of times with suicide, they don't see any other way out. There's no other way to get over whatever is paining them, you know? Yeah. So it's in those moments, that's the only way. I can attest to that, and you can attest to that.
Oh, I can attest to
that. You know, when people say, oh, it's selfish, it's this, okay, you know, you're entitled to your own feelings. But as someone that has gone through it, it's just not seeing a way for the pain to end. You know,
there is no way out. You feel like there is no way out, or any decision that you make in your life at that moment isn't going to help anything. And I don't know when your situation happened, you know, mine was a little more recently, because, you know, within the past 2 years. And some people, you know, oh, you're a mother, how can you leave your kid? Okay, that's how you're thinking. Now, how can you possibly even say that to me when you can't even imagine that being in a place so dark that you feel that your son is better off without you?
Right.
Ew, I'm gonna cry, so we should end it here.
Okay. Well,
I am gonna have that video up. Thank you everybody for watching.
Yes, it's been nice chatting with you all, and we'll be back soon. Yes, and until then, stay safe.
Stay safe.
Whatever.
Make good choices.
I need coffee.
And text us or email us with whatever you need. We have so many outlets on our website. You can find everything on our website, all of our social media, PDFs, just quotes like that. You know, I'm still working on, like, our website is going to be an ever-growing process that is, you know, will just directly go in with our podcast. So whatever information that you found helpful, and, you know, just go and click on the self-exploration or self-tab, and all your shit will be there. Stuff will be there. So,
yeah.
Like it matters now if I curse. So thank you, Coffee Beans. Have a good one.
Over and out.